entirety of the Super Smash Bros. Community. This is Beyond the Metagame. I'm your host, Peon, this week live from the set of the Robin Williams film, Jumanji. This week, I'm joined, as always, by my wonderful co-host, AV. AV, how you doing, big guy?
Dude, I'm doing great. I'm also doing great thinking about how it would be if we were sucked into Smash Brothers. That would be really cool. I think the first thing I would do if I was like sucked into the game of Smash Brothers and I had to play something to get out of it. I think I would like jump into I wish I would have to like jump into melee adventure mode, or like if I had to play like Subspace Emissary to like get back out of the video game. That would
I
be
think
so
Subspace Emissary would be boring even if you got sucked into it and had to play it in virtual reality, because Subspace Emissary sucks, dude.
Oh my god, you're gonna anger so many people. That's like the thing that people liked about Brawl. That was like Brawl's shiny.
Man.
Like,
I love the
like,
cutscenes. I love the cutscenes.
Like what it was such a great experience unlocking all the characters through Subspace Emissary. Like a lot of it felt meaningful. The bosses were incredible. Like how could you not think that the Rayquaza fight was incredible?
Okay, I'll give you boss fights were okay, and the cutscenes were amazing. But the rest of the gameplay was like worse than an actual Kirby game, which is saying a lot. No offense, my boy Sakurai. But I know a lot of people want Subspace 2 to be an Ultimate. I don't, man. I don't. I'd much rather have something like the Melee Adventure game come back. Maybe plus some additional cutscenes and more replayability. Like somewhere between like Smash Run for the 3DS and Melee Adventure mode is like my one player sweet spot, I'd say.
That's fair. I guess on that note, what I'm really looking forward to is either the bringing back of personalized break the target stages, and or create your own break the target stages, because that would be really neat. I always thought break the targets was this really cool speed runny aspect in Smash. Obviously, like there are speed runs of classic and speed runs of adventure mode and stuff like that, but I think break the target is one of these things like that. It is very like competitive naturally, and there's like all these people that are constantly trying to find like new techniques for like melee that has been around for ages, and people are still finding ways to improve their times and break the targets.
It's genius. I don't know why I didn't even think about that, but yeah, I bring that back, and also bring back board the platforms.
No one cares about board the platforms.
Dude, I want it. I don't. But speaking of which, we're talking this week about Ultimate. We're talking about what we're excited about in Ultimate, but also what a new Smash Bros. Title, especially being on a portable system, is going to mean for the competitive scene and for you as a player, both old or new.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of things to consider. There's a lot of stuff to take in terms of what it means for tournaments, what it means in terms of their rule set. Are there going to be any shakeups there? What we're looking at in terms of a stage list, which in my opinion may be the craziest thing that's going to really shake up the competitive scene of Ultimate, and how people are going to bring their consoles to tournament, and if they will bring their consoles to tournament. And then we're going to close up with a look on what the competitive scene might look like, and the death of Smash 4.
Yeah, sure thing, man. So all that and more coming up in just 1 second. Welcome back to Beyond the Metagame. This week, AV and I are going to be talking about Ultimate. Abby, I just want to get into it. Ultimate is coming out in just under 2 months, right? It's been such a long time since the Smash Bros. Game has been released. Not so long when you look like at it relative to the rest of the series. There was a bigger gap between Brawl, Melee and Brawl, and also Brawl and Smash 4. It's only been 4 years since Smash 4 was released, but it feels like a long time. I think that our community is really due for a sequel, and I can speak for everybody. I think when I say that, I it's so hype. It's so hype. It's gonna be here and before we know it. At this point, we're gonna blink and it'll be in our hands. What are you feeling going into this?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a really cool experience. I'm super excited for all of the characters and stage diversity that we're going to have. I think that will bring a lot to the competitive scene in terms of like diversity of matchups and the kind of stages we'll play on. One thing specifically that is going to actually be really cool that I've always looked for Smash to have is that we're going to have really hype music now. I think Smash has had the absolute worst music for a competitive fighting game. Not in the fact that the music is bad, but like when you're playing on like Town and City and Smashville, and you hear like 2 a.m. comes on.
Oh, bum 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 bum. Yeah, no, I was at Genesis 5. I was there on Championship Sunday, and I was sitting in the big kind of orchestral theater. Wonderful venue. I mean, it was beautiful. It was surreal seeing Smash on a big screen in like a venue like that, and blasting through like the most the best acoustics in all of California, and it's just blasting. Wait. It's like, man, I can't wait for the next game to come out.
Yeah, like it's just such a small change, but I think it's actually gonna have a huge effect on how intense these sets are gonna feel, because I actually feel like they have taken away the energy from some of these really really intense sets, especially when a lot of like pros like to gentlemen to Smashville and just keep playing Smashville over and over again. I think also one example of when we've seen this and it has made a very legitimate difference is at Nairo Saga, when I think every Wii U on stream was played using Nairo's mod pack. So we had really really exciting music on every single game, and it actually really increased energy, which is really interesting.
Yeah, that was super sick. I think actually the Wii U crashed and the mod pack wasn't working, and they had to play some of it or they had to play some of the games without the mod pack, and
Right.
it was. I remember even maybe I'm just imagining this, but I remember people in the chat complaining about the music, and if not, then I've definitely seen it like in the Evo type events where there's multiple fighting games. There's people there waiting for another game, and they're watching Smash kind of casually. Oh, what's this? They're like, what is this music? Like even my parents, they watched one of the tournaments where I commentated at, and they were like, dang, the game looks really fun. The music's really fun too, and I'm like, oh no, if they like it,
And that's when you know. That's when you know.
that might be a bad
But
sign.
yeah, but anyway, like, what are you interested in as a single player of the game? As in, what about the single player experience really stands out to you?
Yeah. So when it comes to single player Smash, I actually really like it. Smash 4 had notoriously had a terrible single player experience. I think it made a lot of potentially. I think we really understand as a scene how much single player helps, because sure, we are a competitive scene and we do tournaments, but the largest, all of our players at one point have played this game by themselves. And if that core experience is fun and repetitive and there's stuff to do and to pursue and it's intrinsically rewarding and entertaining, that is going to like bolster tournament attendance down the line. So I'm really interested into what they're going to offer, but personally I hope that we see the return of board the platforms.
Literally, no one wants to see board the platforms. What people actually want to see is target tests and personalized target tests for each character, even though it's like such a far shot because there's going to be like 80 plus characters. So that's actually going to be really ridiculous. I think it's really interesting the fact that we're going to start off with 8 characters and then unlock them all. I think that's super exciting. I can't wait to sit down during like Thanksgiving. Wait, Thanksgiving break. Is it gonna be out then? No,
No, no,
since it's
no.
February.
It'll be like
I
winter
have to
break.
wait till winter, but that's okay. I can't wait to sit down over the weekends or after work and like unlocking all of these characters and going through like a really like awesome single player experience because I think it's gonna be from what Sakurai said, it's going to be a really cool experience. That's gonna be really cool. And if they put in customizable break the targets, that will just be the icing on the cake.
Oh,
That's just gonna be like so incredible. I actually really liked what you said about the single player experience enriching the competitive scene with kind of grassroots players that came up from enjoying the single player experience. On that note, it's interesting how Smash Four really just survived based off of the competitive scene, and there was like very little focus on anything else. And with that, I think it's interesting how successful Smash Four was.
yeah. I'm. This is so anecdotal, but and maybe it's just because I've grown up, and most of the people I'm around, um, don't really game as much as the people I was around when I was younger. When you're younger, all your cousins come over for holidays or whatever, all your friends, and everybody's playing games. So maybe that's warped my perspective. But even I went through college for 4 years. These last 4 years, I'm graduated now, but I never saw too much casual Smash Four being played. When I would walk through a dormitory or someone's apartment or someone's house, when it was full of college students, I almost always saw either Brawl, Project M, or Melee being played on setups. Even Smash 64 more than I would see Smash 4. And I wonder if this the core kind of suite that's offered paired with the nostalgia is almost more important to a lot of casual players out there. What do you think?
I can definitely agree with that. That kind of locks in with a lot of the stuff that I just said. If you're more likely to just play the game by yourself, I think you're just more likely to play the game with someone else too. If you, it's just about like turning on the game and finding something fun to do, and like I think just getting addicted to the game is probably going to be way easier with so much content. I think something that we should probably talk about is what we're looking at in terms of Smash Ultimate's competitive. Well, Smash Ultimate's competitive nature. Like, what are we going to see in terms of a rule set with all of these stages and all of these new options that come in? Are we going to be seeing new side events such as Squad Strike? I think Squad Strike would be a very, very natural side event considering how easy it would be to set up. What do you think? I guess my question to you would be like, what do you think the rule set's going to look like? And if you have no, I don't mind if you have no idea, but
So
what do
that's
you think about that?
that's honestly so interesting because I there's a couple good points you brought up. You brought up Squad Strike as a side event. A lot of people, I've even seen like Zero and some other top players consider Squad Strike like, hey, what if Squad Strike is the future of competitive Smash? Why not? What about Smash Meter? Why not? Why not stage morph? People are starting to kind of question the complete foundation of how Smash should be played competitively. And hear me out, Avi. This is gonna be controversial. When I first heard about all these core features, such as Squad Strike, Stage Morph, and the Smash Meter, like I was just saying, um, I was really skeptical to how they would play competitively. I'm like, okay, well, all of these features, Stage Morph the less, but Squad Strike and Smash Meter seem to have real problems with maybe they kind of make the game too casual and they sort of interact with the competitive integrity of the experience, right? They add randomness to the game.
Sure.
Um, but and so at first I was a fierce opponent. Like I don't want any of these new features to be played competitively. Let's just do 3 stocks, 6 minutes, whatever. We'll keep it the same. But I don't know if I want to play a Brawl 3 competitively. Have we had enough time to play the game that we're playing right now? Is the game going to be too similar to competitive Smash 4 or competitive Brawl if we continue with this kind of stagnant rule set? Or am I just high out of my mind?
I think there's a little bit of both. I think you are on some stuff. Other, I think it would be ridiculous to assume that there is greater than a 10% or 5% chance of smash meter or state or squad strike being the competitive norm. I think there's room to question it. Of course, I think the problem is that is that final smashes are there. Maybe if you have like true confirms into them, or if they're more consistent somehow, or if they weren't so polarizing, it would make sense. But the I guess the innate problem with it is the fact that they're just it's like they're very randomly created. It's not like Street Fighter where where every character is specifically balanced around this or around their ultras and their supers. Like final smashes seem like a very like casual thing. For all I know, maybe they are, but
But that's how Smash is designed in general. I mean,
yeah.
Sakurai repeatedly has said like this character is balanced for one on ones. This character might do better in other formats, free for alls, um, and so I think that design philosophy is consistent throughout. I mean, the game is not designed that well around 1v1 play, in my opinion. Um, and I don't know. What do you think about that?
That's just a really interesting concept. I think we should, if we were to like just look at the system of 1v1 with just smash meter, I think that we should just keep it to that. I think it's interesting to think about how the game is balanced around so many random things. And I'd actually argue that Sakurai and the development team spent a lot more time actually focusing on competitive and bringing features that competitive players would want. I think a lot of one thing that is really interesting is that there's a lot of small tweaks that really that will be really nice in terms of the viewing experience as of Smash as an esport. One thing is that stage is selected first. I don't know if this was intentional, but stage is selected first. I think stage is always, except for the first with the first blind pick. I think stage is always selected first. Um, and so it's actually something that kind of fits into competitive too. I think the loading screens are really cool. The loading screens are going to be really cool to look at. I think they're going to be awesome in terms of like hyping every single match. I think that's going to look good for Smash as an esport. And I think that like all of these changes to make everything way faster in terms of like the knockbacks is way faster. It's the I guess final smashes are way faster. I don't know if that's going to be in competitive, but a lot of these changes are just made to just keep the action going as fast as possible. I think there's so many things that cue me in to say that Sakurai is really focused on making this an esport.
Yeah, plus their whole attitude about it. They really, I mean, they've sponsored a lot of tournaments recently, third party tournaments, within the community. They seem, even like the Switch's marketing. We saw like in the initial Switch reveal, we saw like an arena where like people were playing Splatoon, and there was like a League of Legends sized crowd like cheering for people, and it seems like culturally they're starting to embrace the the world of esports more, and what better game to push that than through Smash? I think it'll be consistent with their design philosophies as well, and yeah, I'm into it, man. Watching this game is like eating candy. Like when somebody takes that critical hit and the game kind of freezes a little bit
Yeah.
and the screen turns dark. It's hot, man. Man, whew. But I want to continue. I mean, I mentioned the Switch. I want to talk about the Switch as the medium that we'll be playing this game in. How is it going to affect the way that the game is practiced, and the way that we should approach this game? One initial worry that comes to my mind is the fact that I know for a fact if I have the Switch in my backpack and I have like a long lunch at work, or maybe people have downtime between class, etc., they're gonna want to pull out the um, the Switch and get some practice in, lab some stuff. How are you gonna do that when you don't have your GameCube or whatever your primary controller is? I know there's adapters for it, but you know what I mean. Like, there's some concerns I have. Abby, how are you gonna treat this game like since it's on the Switch?
I I actually see the portability and the thought of playing it in a location outside of my house as something extra. I don't see it as like this wall in terms of how am I going to play on the go, and it's more of like if I want to play on the go, I have the option to now, as opposed to carrying around this Wii U that's just a brick that has like zero portability, and it's like you just don't play that. I actually think it's just like a cool thing to have on the side. I think what I'll probably do is I'll probably play first like just single player modes like on the go. I think that's what makes the most sense. I probably wouldn't practice on the go. I think that kind of defeats the purpose. I'd probably play like single player stuff on the go,
You know what I
and
just thought about?
it's not. What's up?
There's gonna be like a kid, right, who goes to tournaments. Well, no, before he goes to tournaments, he's playing. His mom's watching Keeping Up with the Kardashians and says, "Son, get off the TV. Mom's got her shows to watch. She's eating Laffy Taffy," and so the son, the son has to go portable, right? So he has his two Joy Cons and they're strapped on either side. He's a total noob. He doesn't know about GameCube controllers. He's like 12, right? And he is just a phenom. Like he's as good at picking up a Smash game as his mom is at eating large amounts of Laffy Taffy while watching reality television, right? And so he is just grinding. He's sick, and he shows up to his first tournament, and they're like, "Oh, what's up, little dude? Uh, you know, like dock your Switch." And he's like, "What do you mean dock my Switch?" He's like, "Yeah, put it in the dock. We gotta play our set." And now this kid's playing with attached Joy-Con. That's different than playing portable. That's a different feel to it. Do you think that's going to be a concern? Is that going to be a barrier to some people? Because a lot of people play the Switch primarily portably.
Oh, that's a really interesting question. I think that would be somewhat of a concern. Although I'd argue that you know how like there's the connector that allows you to put the Joy Cons in something to make it look like a controller.
Yeah, yeah, the
Yeah,
Joy-Con grip.
I'd argue that there's like it's like somewhat similar, but it's like obviously the Switch version feels a lot wider. I actually don't think that playing it like with the Joy Cons at the side is gonna feel ergonomically good or be better
I
for
love
competitive.
Joy-Con. I love Joy-Con. I wouldn't play it for Smash competitively, but when I'm like laying on the couch, I like to play with like two Joy-Con, like one Joy-Con on either side. Stretch out.
Yeah.
Got one arm on one woman, the other arm on just the one arm. But my girlfriend listens to the show. Love you. Um, no, but you get what I mean though. Like there's a lot of questions that come into play, like because the Switch is such a unique vehicle for this game to be played on. I do think it has a lot of like obvious upsides. I mean, the prospect that you'll be able to practice on the go, you'll be able to play while you're in the carpool to a major with your friends. You'll be able to yeah, I mean, I think it opens a lot of doors for a lot of people. Plus, I mean, it goes without saying, the Switch has already sold more units than the Wii U has, and the Switch has only been in the market for a year and a half. Um, this game is going to be bigger than any Smash 4 competitor can imagine. There's going to be all sorts of new people picking up Switch, picking up the game, and going to their first ever tournament. So I ask you, Abby, if you're a veteran, if you've been playing for a while, how do you capitalize on this? What is your approach going into this scene with all this new blood around?
I think this really taps into some stuff that we've talked about before in terms of taking what you know and being able to apply that to the new game. I really think that as a competitor, understanding good practice regimens and understanding that like growth mentalities is easily the most important thing. Most people come in without any path forward. It's a lot like going to the gym and not having a workout plan and kind of just like doing whatever, not recording your stuff. That's how most people come in. Most people come into the world of competitive Smash without any path forward, just kind of randomly playing friendlies. You have no idea what you need to improve on. So there's obviously this inherent fixed cost that we've already paid to get good at the game. I think it'll be really awesome as a competitor, especially because there's going to be a lot more people, so that means like better prize pools. That means like more opportunities to like share knowledge and more opportunities to like for me more opportunities to see more like way more smiling faces and to definitely interact with more people and help people out. I love teaching people about the game. I love tutoring. I do it on Wi-Fi a lot. And I think there's a lot of potential for that. I'm really excited at the prospect of teaching people how to play competitive Smash, and I think that's actually going to become like a bigger market. Even though I don't charge for it, I think the market for teaching people competitive Smash, a lot like we've seen on the media, the market for teaching people Fortnite. like, like I actually think there's going to be more of a market for teaching people competitive Smash because it's going to be way more accessible to so many people on this amazing console. So that's actually something really interesting to think about.
So here's the situation. You're playing, right? Let's say that Laffy Taffy boy comes back. He walks into the venue, and you see him. You lock eyes with him, and he says, "Hey, you want to play with me?" And you say, "Yeah, sure thing, bud." Do you ding dong him?
Oh, absolutely. I have zero. I mean, obviously, it depends. Like it actually, if I'm playing against someone in bracket and I know that they're new, I'd actually go easy on them. But if it's in friendlies, I'd actually go
What?
harder
What
on
is the
them.
logic behind that?
So you think that there's no logic behind this, but as someone who's spent a lot of time developing communities and trying to get people to come back to events, it's infinite. The games played in tournament mean infinitely more than the ones played in friendlies sometimes. Obviously you do want to play some fun games and just mess around with friendlies. People obviously don't want to come to your events and just get like the crap kicked out of them in friendlies. But if people felt like they went into tournament and they had some really good sets, that positive experience is going to stick with them for so much longer. I've had this happen to about like 3 or 4 times.
You know, I was gonna
Yeah.
refute you, but I Falcon punched a 12-year-old. I haven't seen him since.
yeah, yeah, case in point.
All right,
Right
all right, all
there.
right.
Yeah,
But I used to
yeah.
laugh about it.
Dude, you bragged about that.
I be, it was
but
sick.
I think
Look, man, that kid's never gonna air dodge, fast fall into the ground again.
yeah,
And get
some
hit by
lessons
it.
are
Look, you gotta learn someday. All right, baby. I'm taking that. That's what I'm just. That's my civic duty. That was me as a role model. Say, hey, boy, don't air dodge. But
yeah. I'll make sure make sure you're not there when we're trying to get people to come into the scene.
but
But
that's the
yeah,
fun thing. I mean, like, what do you? I guess that like that poses. We've talked about like roles a lot in this scene. You know, like how can you derive purpose from this whole experience? I think yeah, like it'll give an opportunity to a lot of like veteran Smash Four players to be the teacher, to be the veteran, to be the guy that's like, hey, yeah. Of course, this is how brackets work. You know, this is how. Oh yeah, you're not out yet. It's double elimination, so you still have a chance. And like, like it allows a lot of people to take these kind of leadership roles to be like model. I want to say citizens. Maybe that's too strong. Just model smashers.
mhm.
And I think it'll give a lot of responsibility to people who currently feel like they're kind of the grunts of their scene, or they aren't anybody. They'll have an opportunity to say, "Hey, look, I've been doing this for a while. I'll help you out. Like, what do you need help with? Oh yeah, that's how this goes. That's how that goes." And that'll be cool to see how the social dynamics change in each community.
Definitely. I think something that's really valuable to the competitive scene is having a nice layer of low level players. I think it's really underrated how important low level players are to any scene. Having a nice cycle in process of low level players that are eventually converted to mid level and then possibly top level is really important. So basically, like siphoning people from the community and like filling up your low level is one of the most important things in a community. Mostly because it gives when you have mid-level players that think that they're low level, I think it's actually really detrimental. And I actually see this in a few scenes that I've been to, including the one that I just came from. being the Central Coast, a lot of the low level the lowest level players now are actually mid level players, and it's kind of disappointing to watch because they don't get this opportunity, like you said, to take on leadership roles and to basically teach people and to kind of basically find some more directive in the game and to get and to have something else motivating you, and they're always just looked down on as just low level players. So I think it would be really cool once we get this new influx of players and maybe establish more pathways for low level players to be brought into the scene. I think it's actually going to help, yeah, these mid level players a lot too.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I also hope that the players. I mean, right now this is a huge overgeneralization, but the entire kind of greater community voice throughout the entire Smash community, even the Melee community, it seems so. What's the word? Cynical. Everybody is. I just haven't seen that many people on a wider sense talk about the games competitively, other than Ultimate. They're looking towards Ultimate as the shining beacon of hope, right? Or they're looking towards Melee players, they're looking towards like the return of Mango, or whatever. These storylines to be fulfilled, because a lot of their top players are, Armada is fatigued and etc. Um, Puff is dominating still. Um, so a lot of them are complaining. And a lot of the complaints rise to the top, right? And it's mostly, in my opinion, a vocal minority. I mean, when I go to my local tournaments, I still see people having fun. I still see people smiling. I still see friends eating like greasy food afterwards and laughing. And it's still great and wholesome and rewarding. But I hope that going into Ultimate, we really enjoy those first couple of months, especially, but even years, and where we have the biggest player base, and we make the most out of it, and we detach ourselves from any cynicism that we may have about our current game, of our current quote unquote legacies or careers of Smash, and just really work on like fostering positivity and enjoying those moments, because like you said, those the influx of noobs is not always going to be there, and those noobs are the cornerstone to your community. And we have to develop a way to keep them there. Abby, what do you think? I mean, how do we keep that large crop of 1 and 2ers, 0 and 2ers? How do we keep them coming back for years to come?
So
Go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, that's a great question. One that speaks very, very personally to me. I have spent a lot of time developing techniques as a TO to make sure that people stay, to make sure that I've built and sustained this group of diverse players in terms of player skill and backgrounds. And I think one of the most important things is just creating a sense of identity that's not clicky. One of the things that a lot of competitive environments do is that there's this innate desire to form cliques with people of similar skill group. And I see that a lot when I go to NorCal or SoCal tournaments, and it makes sense. I don't necessarily think that the practice is without reason or that it's completely toxic. I do think that it will absolutely uh, take people away from the scene that could possibly be converted into competitive players. Obviously, it wouldn't deter the most determined of competitive players, and that's probably why these scenes have been able to retain so many quality players. I do think that when you're trying to grow a community and you're trying to do a lot in terms of making sure that everyone feels welcome and getting a lot of these 0-2-1-2 players to come back, is really to go and engage with them and really to ask them how they're doing. If you see someone new, you're finding out their name, you're asking them how they're doing, and you have to seem sincere. There is a legitimate difference when you don't seem sincere. It is night and day. This seems obvious in terms of the fact that, like, yeah, it's like I don't it's like yeah, I'm gonna be sincere when I tell someone that I'm glad that they're here and I'm glad and I really hope to see them again. But you have to really embody that on a very personal level if you want it to come off well, and you want it to and you really want people to come back, you have to really feel it on a very personal level. And I think when people ask me this and I give them that response, that's something that I'm actually likely leaving out because of how important this was as a mission to me. I think as to any aspiring TOs or any aspiring community leaders, if you don't have this like innate desire to really like build a community and to just like attack every single new player, just like give them so much love, you either need to kind of like refocus your identity as a TO, or maybe or maybe just really tap into this like into this desire that maybe you have that's like latently like sitting within you. I
Yeah.
think it's really important. I mean, if you don't desire to have to do this, or you don't kind of or you don't have this like this motivation, it doesn't mean you're a bad tournament organizer either. I think there's lots of people who are just fundamentally very good organizers and very good event planners. It's not like a very essential skill in terms of in terms of in terms of like doing your job as an organizer, but I think as a community leader, it's one that's absolutely important for every scene to have. I think 2 to 3 people like this.
I think, well, to piggyback on what you were saying, like the total the mindset of, okay, I see a new face, I'm gonna be nice to them. I've been to so many tournaments. And I'm not gonna name drop any scenes or tos, but there was one specific example where I was sitting down in a tournament. My match was called. I get up to go to my match. At this time, the TO didn't even know who I was. They didn't know who Peon was or what he looked like. So he turns. He has a megaphone in his hand, and he looks at me screaming, "Peon, Peon, where are you? Play your match, Peon, Peon!" Like in a megahorn. I'm 5 feet away from him. I'm like, "Hey, I'm Peon. You called my match 10 seconds ago. You know, I'm walking. Where do I play? What setup do I go to?" And I was just thinking at that time, it struck me. I was like, you know, that was a really negative experience. You know, it was kind of embarrassing because everybody in the venue thought I just wasn't listening to the TO. And I have thick skin. That was the least of my concerns. But I was thinking, if there was a new player, if it was someone's first tournament, they're like a 15-year-old girl decides to check out the scene, and she feels uncomfortable. You know, there's just 25 dudes around her that are all like 30 and sweaty and smell bad. And there's this 15-year-old nerdy girl who's like, "Hey, I want to try out Smash. I like this game." And she's just getting yelled at by some greasy dude. Like, she's not coming back. So I don't know, dude. Like, people need to be friendly. They need to prioritize. Hey, we're playing video games. We're all nerds together. Let's just smile and like let's be kind to each other. Let's be accepting of everybody. That's what I want to see. And I want to transition into like noob friendliness, right? I want to talk rule sets. We need to craft a way for new players, for or even the bad players, you know, in quotation marks, like the 1 and 2ers, 2 and 2ers, 0 and 2ers, the people, the real meat of your community, but that never really get their time in the sun. They never get any praise. I want to have some more creative side events beyond just doubles or random singles, stuff like that. I want to make a side competition that really anybody can win and is also fun to play by anybody, or at least add some elements. You know, maybe it is that smash meter, maybe it is random squad strike. You know, how do we get these newbies a chance to receive some praise beyond just the unranked Arcadian format?
So I think that you hit on a really good point in terms of the fact that getting people to come is very relative to to like the variety and diversity of experiences. I think that some side events in Smash 4's history have been fairly effective at getting people to stay. Although I feel I do see the same the same correlation between player skill and placement in these events. Like a lot of them are like low tier events, uh, or or like nemesis events where you play your opponent's main, or Iron Man. I think a lot of these still are very easily like it just makes more sense that the better player is going to win most of the time. Obviously, it introduces some variation, so we do see more upsets. But I think in order to really a more competitive look from some of these players that aren't as strongly in the competitive scene is to actually tap in to some of these single player modes. So remember how we talked about how a lot of these players are playing single player by themselves, and then they see that their school or that or their college or that their local brewery or local church has a Smash event going on. They say, "Hey, I want to check this out." This player has probably played mostly single player, obvious, or has played casually with his or her friends. Now the thing is that if we have stuff like competitive break the targets or like classic speed runs
Or
or
board the platforms.
but no one wants more than platforms. No, we're not. It's not going to happen. We're
Dude,
not making
please.
But I think actually that's kind of the way to go. It's because all of these skills are things that competitive players, especially the ones at the top, are likely not practicing.
Yeah.
I think but they still require skill. That's the important part. Some of these things still require skill. It's just different. It's just a completely different skill set.
Yeah, absolutely. Home run contest. Winner gets an amiibo. Boom. Announce it a week before. Say this whole tournament, theme the tournament around it. Yo, okay, we're gonna have a singles bracket. We're gonna have a competitive bracket. Of course, you have to have the core experience, but hype it up. Let's say, yo, guys, this week we have a home run contest. Be prepared. You know what I mean? Be prepared.
The sad part is we could have done that in Smash 4. There's nothing stopping us from doing a home runs contest side event in Smash 4. I think I'm kind of getting some FOMO. Like I'm wondering why I didn't run a home run contest side event.
well, that's the thing. Smash 4 is dying. You know, unless Ultimate just sucks terribly. Even if it does, I don't think that the Smash 4 community will be refostered. It isn't a game that was ever as beloved as Melee was by its scene. It was always a game that was played and very much enjoyed, but it doesn't differentiate itself that much from the rest of the franchise to be this evergreen game, right? When Ultimate comes out, chances are that's the game we're going to be playing. So, you know, what have we learned in playing? I mentioned earlier, I don't necessarily know if I want to play a Brawl 3. You know, I don't know if I want to play the same kind of game again and again and again. Maybe I want it to differentiate itself. The core gameplay most likely will, and I'm not saying we should have a bunch of crazy rules competitive. I'm thinking about it. I'm not counting that out either. But yeah, I mean, what have you learned, Abby, other than saying, man, we should have had a home run contest in Smash 4?
What have I learned in terms of
This is everything. What does the community learn? What can we use knowing what we know now going into this new title?
I think something that we've talked about a lot in one of our previous episodes is the fact that we have the infrastructure. We have the tournament infrastructure that is going to carry on into Smash Ultimate. A lot of this infrastructure was either weak or didn't exist as strongly in the Brawl era. So, and as we have seen, a lot of the Brawl veterans transitioned into Smash 4. We didn't get as much porting from Melee. So a lot of this infrastructure for tournaments, for Smash 4 tournaments, was kind of created from grassroots. Now we have that. We have a really strong infrastructure. We have play and so on that side, in terms of the competitive foundations, we have a lot of knowledge on how to run events and how to get people to come out. And it's going to be way easier getting the inertia to get people and basically the struggles of getting people to come out. So many of those problems are going to be fixed at the beginning of Ultimate. In terms of as a player, I think something to think about is that like we talked about earlier in this episode is we've learned how to learn a game. We've learned how to practice a game. And I think we've also learned how to not get burnt out over a game. Well, theoretically, hopefully, we've learned that out. If you haven't, watch episode 2. I think that there's so much to take away as a human being in terms of learning. There's so much to take away as a community leader. There's so much to take away in terms of like filling a role in your community, something that will last you a lifetime and will give you a lifetime of satisfaction is finding a role in your community where you feel like you're contributing and filling that niche. That is probably the extent of your satisfaction in life. Now that is like I have I just told you the meaning of life? Maybe, maybe have we peaked? Have we talked about the meaning of life in
Are we
episode
still on
eight?
the set of Robin Williams' Jumanji?
We
I
are
don't
still
know.
on that set. But that's like, but the thing is, I will say that a lot of the satisfaction that you take away from the Smash community or things in your life are where you feel like you're contributing. So finding that place to contribute and really locking that in is going to be one of the biggest lessons to take away from your time as a Smash 4 player.
Yeah, I think as a community, I've touched on it already in this episode, but I don't know, man. I think we just need to find different ways to play. We need to think outside the box in terms of what an event is. You know, why do is it just where people come, we do doubles and singles and maybe a side event, or maybe that side event takes place of doubles? Is there so much more we could be doing with this? I think so. I think there's a way. I mean, what about leagues? Why do we only have double elimination brackets? You know, what about a league? What if 10 people could join a league together, meet up a couple of times, and then there's a playoff between the top 4 players? Or, you know, why don't we mess around with some formats and differentiate ourselves further than we already have? You know, because I think.
Yeah,
Go ahead, jump in.
yeah, I just want to jump in to ask you another question in the fact that we've seen all of these other fighting games have a similar style to us. You just show up, you play a double elimination bracket, and that's it. I want to ask you, why do you think we need something different when there's clearly a lot of demand for just double elimination brackets?
I don't know if we need something different. I think that if we just did what we do now, right, where we have stocks, a certain amount of stocks, probably 3 stocks for ultimate, a time limit, and some really, you know, neutral stages, it'll be a very successful game. At least as successful as Smash 4 was. Most likely much more. But I also don't think that that format is perfect. I think that double elimination is inherently flawed in the sense that the best players, especially in bigger tournaments, get to play a lot more matches than the worst players. The worst players show up, they go 0-2. They play 2 sets. Maybe they win one. Maybe they go 1-2. Those are the bottom players in the scene. Meanwhile, the average kind of mid-high level players at a local are going to play 5, 6, 7 matches when there's a lot of people there. You know, so it's a lot of only the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, and it is competitive. It is cutthroat. I like that. I like aspirational goals, and I like rewarding the most skilled players. But do we have to do it all the time? Is there a way where we can strike a closer balance between the worst off and the best off? I mean, I'm not trying to turn into Bernie Sanders right now for you, Avi, but I'm just saying. I mean, I think there's a different formats we can fool around with, and why I cited a league is because in a league you're guaranteed to get a certain amount of games against the best players and all the players. You know, you can if you and the other people in your scene all sign up for a league. Maybe it's like a 4-week long league. You meet once a week. You have scheduled matches. You can practice. You can prepare for that match. It's really fun, and then you have a playoff at the end. That could be really cool. I mean, there's downsides to that too. I mean, if somebody shows up midway through the season, quote unquote, that could be an issue. I'm not saying that's a perfect system, but I'm just saying at least the worst players get to play more. You know, is that something we should be advocating for?
Yeah, as far as I know, I'm talking to Bernie right now. But I think you're bringing up a lot of points that I think are endemic to just competitive things in general. I think what I'm hearing a lot from you is that it are important things that we have addressed and are going to address. I think as a scene, we see that 2GG has made a really strong effort in this area. I think 2GG has carried us by far in this area. And on your point, I agree that we need to see more events that that cater to lower level players and have events like Arcadians, round robin pool Arcadians with waterfall brackets that really are dedicated to lower level players. I think that's really important, and I think there's a time and a place for these things. Unfortunately, no matter what, pro players will always favor double elimination brackets, and because their voices are so huge in the community, and for any sport, the voice of a pro player, the voice of a top 10, top 50 player is just carries so much weight that it carries the weight of like 10,000 people, of like 10,000 0-2-1-2ers. Is that okay? That's just how that's just how it's set up. I think that's just an innate problem with, or if it, or is it a problem? I don't know if it is. It's just an innate after effect or side effect of competitive things in general. You have this really really small. You have the 1%, the 0.1%, and they have all the power. It's just true. It's just true of like of every competitive sport. But you're absolutely right. There's so much to do in terms of developing events and developing formats to benefit these players, while also at the same time having our standard double elimination brackets to make sure that our pro players and the people that are kind of sustaining the sport to feel rewarded.
Sure thing. I think that there's a lot of merit to that. I do think that the most competitive people usually have the great opinions generally about what is most competitive and what is most fair. And I think that's valuable. But one aspect that isn't really considered much is the viewing perspective. I mean, Smash is an esport, whether Nintendo wants it to be or not. People are watching this game. And Smash 4 viewership is at an all-time low. It's embarrassing the numbers we get compared to other games. And that is endemic of the FGC in general. But I mean, this is a game. Ultimate will be a game with 80 plus characters in it. With pretty much anybody that looks at this screen will be able to recognize some asset, some fragment of their childhood that will bring them happiness. We're casting such a wide net here, and it's such a universally understandable game. It's sumo wrestling. It's fighting. It's easily comprehensible, and yet still, as it stands now, we don't have much of a viewership. The game is not enjoyed by the masses, and to not challenge that, I think, is naive. Why isn't there more buzz about the game? You know, in Melee, uh, even when the game had less entrants at events such as Evo, Melee always dominated Smash 4 in viewership. I'm not sure about the tournament when uh, Salem won when they were in Mandalay Bay on Sunday. Maybe they had more viewership just because of the time slot. But regardless, on average, Melee dominates Smash 4, and it's because the gameplay is kinetic. You can really see what's happening. This guy's hitting this guy. You know, even if you're a noob. In Smash 4, most of the genius of the game is disguised by inactivity. It's disguised by neutral and advantage, disadvantage. And it's very nuanced and extremely fun and chess-like to play. But it isn't so immediately understandable, right? Um, how do we make this more fun to watch? I think we add stakes. We add a potential for someone to lose, someone to win. We mix it up. You know, that's what I'm thinking. I'm starting to lean towards that. I'm starting to empathize with that position more. What do you think?
Yeah, I think, like I said, while it is also naive to to think that we cannot solve this problem of not being able to catch all the fish that we're casting the wide net on, I do think it is equally naive to assume that this problem is easily fixable, and therein lies the issue. We can either be competitive, or we can be casual. Unfortunately, there is a nice in between, and I think obviously the developers of this game, from what I've seen, have reached a really really nice balance between the two, and I don't think that's on us, honestly. It's on the game. There's not. I think we don't actually have much to do with it. That to assume that we have the power in this is a little assuming. I think that we like melee because of the game. We like you said, we like it because it also offers the very the very juicy and nuanced and complex neutral that Smash 4 has, but it also has this ridiculous like input storm and amazing showmanship and just like super fast. I like
Crazy
how you said
storylines.
yeah, kinetic gameplay. You have this beautiful documentary that brought so many people in to the point where people are literally called documentary kids. like you're
Yeah,
called a documentary kid if you if you jumped into the game because of the documentary, and that
I'm a
usually means
documentary kid.
yeah, and it's like and speaking of which, there's people like Zane who are documentary kids who win who are starting to win and do amazing things at the game. So this I actually think that this is all due to the resources created by the community and the game itself. Uh, and I think it's a very chicken and egg thing there. I think because the game is good, a lot of resources were created, and that kind of cycles. I think now what we're gonna see with Ultimate is that we're gonna create it. We're gonna see this like if it is as wonderfully diverse and basically as nuanced of an experience and as exciting of an experience as melee is, we're gonna see something similar. And I think that is the path that we are headed down. And I'm really excited for the future.
It's gonna be so fun. I mean, no matter what happens, whether or not you agree with some of the stuff I said, I mean, at the end of the day, guys, I just want to clarify on some of my positions. I was throwing out some wild ideas. I have no idea what I want to see. I'm gonna play the game. I'm gonna see if the game is very standard in terms of its rule sets, along with Smash. Look, Smash is one of my favorite franchises ever. I'll be happy. Like, that'll be great. Um, I'm just trying to stir the pot. You know, I'm putting my feelers out there. I want to see what you guys are thinking about this as well. Feel free to tweet at us at Beyond Metagame, because I want to know what are you guys all thinking about in terms of potential rule sets, in terms of your excitement for the game in general. How you think this game is going to make its mark on the competitive scene, and in your own competitive journey. I'm excited, man. I'm
Yeah,
excited.
yeah, it's gonna be really cool. I think that about wraps up what we wanted to cover today. And I think we should jump into some questions from our Twitter.
What do we got, Abby? What do we got?
All right, Batrakuda says, with Ultimate having such a large roster, how much more important will it be to duel or try main as opposed to other games? In older games, you could get by with just playing the best character, but with the mass amount of matchups, solo maining seems unlikely or hard. What do you think, Peon?
Oh, that's a great. So, Badger Kuda, welcome back. A previous question answer. We appreciate you, man. Or woman. I don't know. Badger Kuda, gender neutral. We appreciate you regardless. So that's a great question. Because there's all these different characters, is it going to be more important to have more pockets? More options on the table. I'm going to go ahead and say it will be more important to have more characters in your roster. Because it's as simple as this: knowing as many characters as possible, especially in the opening gates, is going to help you so much in tournament. You don't want to be surprised by what happens, and since the meta will be so new upon release, you won't really know who is amazing and who is bad yet. It'll take a while for the meta to really form, and it'll be nice to kind of diversify your investment into multiple characters, in case one of them sucks. You know what I mean? Plus, with all these different characters, the chances that one of your characters is going to have a bad matchup is really high. So, because there's more characters, you're also increasing the amount of the probability that you're going to have bad matchups. So, yeah, get your fingers behind a couple of different characters.
Yeah, I'd say if you're not playing one of like the top 5 characters in this game, you're gonna want to have a pocket. I actually say that pretty directly because I think that the most important the most important resource in terms of learning matchups is having people to play against. And there's going to be a matchup that you know is really bad, and that a pro player that you follow, or the entire community of a character in general, knows that there's this one bad matchup. And if you don't get practice against that matchup, the absolute easiest thing to do and the path of least resistance is just pick up the hard counter to that character. Picking up the hard counter to that character, in my opinion, is likely easier than learning the matchup by seeking out a player of that character. So your best bet is will likely be playing 2 or 3 characters.
Yeah,
Well, yeah,
oh, sorry, sorry,
yeah,
Abby.
no worries. I was just gonna say that it will dilute the game a little with having with your skill will be a little diluted, which will make the game really interesting. And I think that'll actually uh, help the game develop more. And I think we're going to see a little stronger of a lifetime out of this game because people are going to be developing or trying to develop so many different characters.
Sure. Well, next question we got Mr. Uh, this one's hard. Mr. Yarlick. Well, that was my best bet. Mr. Yarlick was also a multiple time commenter on our Twitter or Tweeter. I don't know, answerer. Either way, you're a familiar face, so thank you again for the question. How do you deal with bracket demons? Do you prepare differently for them compared to others, or do you just treat them the same as anyone else? Now that is a good question. Albie, what do you think?
I think that if there's a player that I have lost to 6, 7 times and have never beaten, or maybe I've taken one game here and there, but I generally struggle against this person, I think that it means that there is a significant hole in my gameplay. That is such a valuable data point. So I actually absolutely will treat it differently in the sense that I will explore and find out exactly what's going on. I will go to this person that's my bracket demon and I will try to play as many friendlies with them as humanly possible, not just to figure them out as a player just to get the download on them, but to introspect and figure out exactly what is in my play that causes this person's playstyle or character to trump mine. And that is how I use this knowledge that someone is my bracket demon to kind of structure my practice and to influence the way that I prepare for matches.
Awesome.
What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, I definitely psychologically, I know they're just another guy, another girl. I say, look, they're not some god. You can't be too afraid of them. You can't be more scared, nervous when you play against them. But yeah, gameplay wise, game plan wise, I'm definitely going to be trying to implement some specific strategies and feel around and see why they're my bracket demon. Really try to understand it better. So yeah, I'll treat it a little bit differently.
Yeah, sure. So E Spuridan asks if you play any 3 people in the world, living or dead, in a best of 5, who would you choose and why?
Okay, so
Please
is it
tell
like
me.
3 each? Let's say so we each pick three.
Sure, yeah. Let's both pick our 3.
All right, let's each pick one at a time.
All right, sure. Let's go. You first.
Oh, okay. I'd probably pick President Bill Clinton, just so I could show him my impersonation. Yeehaw! What about you?
I would, I would pick Gandhi because that's a free win. He can't. He took a vow of nonviolence. That's easy bracket win. We're
Wow,
moving. Yeah, we're moving on bracket. That's free for me, dude. All right,
that's very
all right,
smart.
all right. Next one for you.
Ooh, this is interesting. Um, Maybe Norm Macdonald. I feel like he would hate it, and I don't know. I like his voice. That's not very good. I mean, that's not an extremely great answer. I just like him. He's funny.
Okay, sure. I pick Hikaru. An actual answer. I just really want to play Hikaru. I studied him religiously to learn DK. So being able to play against him and learning from him would probably be a really cool experience.
Sure thing. And for my third one, this is a great question. This might be the best question we've had so far. Um, Maybe like Benjamin Franklin. Is that weird? Either that or
Why?
my.
Like, what is valuable about what? Like, he's gonna like. How would
Dude,
playing
this dude invented the library. Could you imagine what his reads are like in game? What about you?
Oh my god, me. Obviously, I'm torn between giving a fun answer and a serious one, but I think it would be really cool to just play and hang out with with Armada. I've always looked up to Armada in terms of his mentality and his approach to the game.
You could have chosen anyone, and you chose two people you could actually play with if you go to a major.
Yeah, but I don't care. I don't go to I don't have the opportunity to go as many to go to as many of these events. Obviously, I actually think Hikaru is actually a way lower chance of me ever getting to play with him and playing Armada. And I don't play Melee, so how am I supposed to play Armada?
Just sit down and start. Yo, see, your Marth's pretty sick in Melee. I've seen it. Okay.
It's okay.
Okay, but side B, the homie asks, "What is your favorite Smash 4 moment, competitive and casual?" So one of each, I suppose.
Okay, I think this is really difficult, and obviously, I'm probably going to be forgetting my absolute favorite moment.
So wait,
But
let's distinguish. Is this like your own personal moment or just like across the scene? I say we say across the scene. I think that's more
yeah,
fun.
I actually want to give both. I think my favorite Smash 4 moment is the very last tournament I attended. I won both doubles and singles, and it was my very last tournament that I entered.
Dude, we played Double Cloud and I think we dropped a game.
That was disgusting.
And then you beat me in grands. That was hype.
Yeah, that was really hype. So, and that was my very last tournament in Central Coast, and that was easily my favorite Smash 4 moment. I don't think I can top that. Other than another really hype grand finals that I won. But and in terms of like the competitive scene, I think probably my favorite Smash 4 moment as a whole was Civil War. I don't want to pick any specific thing from Civil War, but there were so many things in that tournament that made it such a standout event. And it was just in terms of watching as a viewer, in terms of the storylines, it was just absolutely an incredible event with a lot of amazing sets.
Yeah, it was so good. It was so good. So many upsets. The whole theme was so hype. I still never even saw the Marvel movie it was based on. Okay, so my favorite casual moment, it probably. Man, I don't want to give it like a too cheesy of an answer. Honestly, just like playing with friends. Like I have a specific memory of just like having a bunch of local smashers in my upstairs. We were just drinking some beer after a big tournament, and we all just kind of came back. Everybody kind of cut loose, a bunch of nerds kind of cutting loose. It's always so fun to see. I see a lot of people like putting themselves out there, and seeing like smashers in a different context is always so heartwarming for me for some reason. I don't know why. Competitively, I have to say, it was right after. This is vaguely competitive, but right after 0-1 West Side Saga. Meanwhile, like the SoCal crowd, the whole meme that the SoCal crowd is super boring and super unhype, I think was shown most prominently in this tournament. There was nobody making any noise. It was like me and my group of 5 people were like cheering, like woo, like we weren't like over the top screaming. We were cheering like an appropriate amount, but since nobody else was cheering, it was super awkward. That was also like I think Z-Fly's first time emceeing, and nobody was responding to anything he was saying, and it was just super awkward in the building. And so anyway, it's completely silent. Zero double eliminates resets the bracket against Tweak and gets the W. It was vintage Zero. Zero walks off the stage, and again, nobody's there cheering for him. Nobody's congratulating him. It was actually pretty sad. And Zero, he walks over to me and my buddy Slep, uh, and he just kind of puts his. I had never talked to Zero, and he just digs his hand into my shoulder, like into my trapezius, and he's just getting like, he was touching parts of my shoulder did not know were there. You know what I mean? And it felt good. And I'm like, this is actually gonna. And I kind of look over, and Zero's like, ah, that was hard. And I was like, yeah, man, that was hard. Anyway, after that, and it was so funny because he just needed someone to talk to after he won. And we talked to him for like 10 minutes or so. Super nice guy. He was super friendly, and it was just hilarious. It was really surreal because I was one of my first interactions with like a top player at the time, and it was funny guy. But Big Meme asks, do you think it's better to solo main or dual main at mid level?
Solo main. It's pretty obvious. If your character has a hard counter, and you have, and there's a pretty like low amount of resistance in terms of picking up a character to counter it, then like do a counter pick. But solo main and have a secondary for counter picks, never. I think dual maining at a mid level is a bad idea. It is a game that you're playing in terms of like in terms of splitting your time between learning these two characters, and at the mid level you can win most matchups with playing one character.
Does anybody really dual main? I feel like people. I feel like nobody really multi mains. I feel like everybody has.
Few.
I
Right,
feel
hear
like,
me out.
Go ahead.
Yeah, dual maining is like multi-classing in Dungeons and Dragons, or multi-classing in any RPG.
I've played Dungeons and Dragons a grand total of 0 times. I have no idea what you're talking
All
about.
right, well, it's like splitting your skill points between two different classes in an RPG.
Ugh.
You're not getting. It's like that's what dual maining literally is. Some stuff crosses over in terms of like your stats crosses over, and like there's like probably some ways to optimize it, and your skill crosses over in some ways, but you are splitting your time between learning and appreciating two different characters. So
Well,
I would recommend against it.
you heard it here. Okay, but I think that kind of wraps up this week. Guys, thank you so much for listening. I mean, we continue to grow with each episode, and we really appreciate all the feedback, all the questions. You guys are sick. Like the questions this week, way better than last week. So thank you guys. And yeah, so you can find us at Beyond Metagame. My personal Twitter is Peon_GCE. That's Golf Charlie Echo. Abby, what do you think? Where do people find you?
People can find me at A Vaidyanatha. I will spell it out for the very first time.
Oh,
AVAIDYANATHA. I should change it, but it is my last name. I'm proud of it.
bro, you spelled that so quick. Like I work in sales, and I routinely talk to people on the phone, and they're like, "Oh yes, my name is Gregory Badadabad, and I work for blah, 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 and my phone number is 874. I'm like, dude, what was your name? And you just pulled a Gregory right there, my friend.
All right, well there it is. Yeah, you can find it. You can find it on the website. So like you can find it on the website. You can find it on Beyond Metagame on Twitter at Beyond Metagame. That's where you can find us. So I think that will wrap our time up for today.
Yeah, you can also look forward in the near future to seeing our Discord community launch. We're still in the works for putting that together, but we're going to launch a common hub for, Smash discussion. Maybe play us on Wi-Fi, play each other on Wi-Fi. Talk about the game, your approach to it, and have a platform to do so, and talk with us. Chill out with us. I think me and Abby really want to foster the community, and meet some of you guys, talk with some of you guys about the game, and we're always listening out for feedback. So talk to us. We're listening. And yeah, expect that Discord server.
Yeah, we're gonna get that right up for you as soon as possible. Thank you so much, guys.